Hello, I'm Anthony. Having a joyous time putting this album together. I hadn't done an episode specifically dedicated to the river as an album for a while, so I thought I'd use this opportunity to do so. I've been remixing what's going to be the second song on the album called Dream, and when I wrote this song, this was my favourite song. River Song has recently overtaken it, but there's no accident that these are the first two songs on the album because I think they're my strongest songs, so I don't really want to bury the lead. It's then the task of all of the other songs that I've written so far to get up to this standard. So as I'm going back into each one of these songs over the course of the next maybe 6 to 12 months, I intend to improve what I've already done and get this thing to a standard where I'm genuinely proud of it as an objective exercise rather than, that's as good as I can do. I want it to be genuinely good. So I've gone back in and remixed The Dream, and part of that remixing process is much wider than just remixing because we've actually re-recorded large sections of the song, including the entirety of the vocals. I've recently done various exercises on noise thresholds, input levels, distances from microphones, positioning of pop shields. The whole science surrounding vocals has had a bit of a deep dive recently, and what's come out of it is a dramatically improved vocal sound. I'll just solo this lead vocal and just run a little bit of it.
Once upon a time there lived a man of silence.
They're very pure, very low noise threshold. Beautiful performance by Pauline, but more importantly, from the technical perspective, very much improved recording quality. The vocals are the most important element of a song. They've got to be right. And the majority of the songs that I've recorded over the past 2.5, 3 years that I've been running this YouTube channel, I've really been learning the science of how to record a song live. It's not something I'd ever done before. It's why I started the channel, to kind of force myself to do this stuff. And so I'm getting to the stage now where I'm starting to become genuinely happy with the sound of my vocals. Everything's really stepping up a level in terms of quality. I just want to show you these harmonies at the end of the song by way of illustration because boy can Pauline sing. I think these are really very lovely indeed.
Once upon a time there lived a man of silence.
The previous song didn't have any harmonies. It had a double-tracked vocal at the end just to provide a little bit of thickness, but it was 100% down to laziness that I didn't record harmonies. It's a lot of work doing all of the processing on that many tracks, and quite frankly, I just couldn't be bothered. Well, those excuses no longer wash, so I basically made sure that I did it properly this time. You can see one bit missing at the end here. I've been vacillating backwards and forwards as to whether or not this harmony section is supposed to be in. This was what was originally recorded.
And now he can't recall before the din of defeat.
And objectively, I've decided that I actually prefer that section of the vocals naked.
And now he can't recall before the din of defeat.
It's a really difficult decision to make, to throw stuff away that's good in its own right, but doesn't actually fit in the rest of the song if I played the rest of the song in context, which I guess I now have to do.
And now he can't recall before the din of defeat.
Just sounds better that way. So I'm trying to maintain that level of kind of forensic precision where I'm stepping back and listening to the song and trying to really hear what sounds the best, but being prepared to cut stuff out that's good if it doesn't warrant a place. I've actually done that in several places of this song. There were extra keyboard lines that used to exist have now been cut because they were simply superfluous. Really pared it down. I love the way that this song is very, very stripped down. When we get to there's a section in the bridge, for instance, where it's literally just one double-tracked guitar and then bass and drums, and there's nothing else going on. Every time I try to add anything to that section at all, it detracts. You know, sometimes less is more. Well, very often, actually, less is more. And that's a principle that I'm also trying to apply to my mixing at the moment. I had an excellent conversation with my son, Alex, a few months ago. He's a key musician, a graduate from Birmingham University of Music Technology, and we spend a lot of time talking about the science of sound and, really getting the full nerd on. And we were talking about really fundamentally what is mixing. And Alex said, well, it's just fixing problems. At the end of the day, if every aspect of the song was recorded perfectly, they would just sit in a kind of beautiful harmony. And you only apply mixing processes to fix issues. Now, that could be frequency-based issues, two perfectly well-recorded instruments competing with each other for the same frequency space. But at the end of the day, it's only fixing problems. So I'm trying to approach the perspective of mixing as get the dry mix as good as I possibly can. Get all of the sounds balanced in themselves so that individually they all sound great. And then try to identify whether or not instruments are stepping over each other, whether there's mud or mush in the sound. What's wrong that I need to fix? Rather than in the past, I've basically just put an EQ on every track and started hacking and slaying and boosting frequencies and cutting frequencies, and really just basically turning myself into a Jackson Pollock picture where I have no idea what I'm doing. Well, I suppose he kind of did because he was a genius. But, you end up with that state of complete chaos where you've got ridiculous EQ curves and you can't really explain. I can go in like the following day and have no chance of explaining or describing what it is I've put there. And even worse, when you bypass an effect and the song gets better, you just go, you idiot, what have you done? So I'm trying to do less of that stuff these days. If we have a look at the mixer, it's a very light touch on the song. There's really not much going on. There are quite a number of EQs on the tracks, but generally speaking, if you look at them, they're all just low cuts. They're taking unnecessary bass energy out of the song, leaving the bass guitar and kick drum to do their thing. But for the most part, I'm trying to be as light touch as possible, gentle on the compressors, none of this, 8-to-1 ratio, just absolutely crushing everything to oblivion. Trying to be really gentle with my approach to mixing. I'm also starting to develop a standard suite of effects on the master bus, and these are designed to glue everything together. I've got two separate compressors and an EQ, and they're there just to pull the entire song together. That again, very low ratios, fairly gentle compression. They're really not doing very much, couple of dB here or there. And I actually took this suite of effects out of Riversong and just put them straight on the Dream, and couldn't think of a single thing to do to change them. I'm just basically going through them now so that you can have a look at the settings if you're interested, but they're really very stock indeed. Let's just have an example of the API. This is my favorite compressor at the moment. This thing's bloody amazing. It just glues everything together and makes it all sound superior. Let's just get a decent level. I'll turn it off and then bring it in.
Once upon a time, there lived a man of silence, and he lay
Once more.
alone in peace forever. He only needed time.
Isn't that amazing?
Find the sound.
I've put insight meters on these things. I won't do it now. Just basically trust me that there's no additional level coming out of this. This is just a richening and thickening of the sound in that magical way that compressors do. And this thing is something else. So I'm starting to develop this set of heuristics where I'm saying, I've identified that these pieces of equipment are very good at doing this job. In the absence of anything better to do, I'm going to give that job back to that thing again, in the hope that as this album grows and I can start putting these songs side by side, I'm really starting to hear whether or not the two things work well together. In that vein, I've loaded up the album project here. So this is where I've basically got all of my audio files in the order that I intend them to appear on the album. This is the current mix of the River Song and The Dream. And I'm just playing around with crossfading between the two songs. So let's just have a listen to the transition between the end of River Song and the beginning of The Dream. Completely on the fence about whether or not to do this. The Dream actually starts off very nicely with a very brutal and immediate kind of sound. I think, is this the first? Somewhere around here. This is where the original Dream is supposed to start. And that bass note and kick drum coming straight in right at the very beginning has great impact. So I'm right on the fence about whether or not to just separate these two songs and not try to mix them together, or do this crossfade. Again, this is stuff that I've never done before, so I'm really just feeling my way through the process of how this album is going to get put together. Some people can hear things before they've even written them down or tried them. I'm not that. I have to get to the stage where I have a completely fully finished product, then stick it into this mixed album project where I can mess around with it and just try different stuff. To be absolutely honest with you, I'm not completely enamored with this crossfade. I've tried, as you can see, different curves to fade them together. So it might be that that's just an experiment that didn't work. I never really intended them to be crossfaded together. It was worth a try, but my current impression is that no, it's not quite worked. That's not the right thing to do. But this is the first time I've had an opportunity to put those two songs together and really try to figure out what best to do. It might be some kind of sound effect that I can put in between the tracks. I think that's the next thing I'll try. Anyway, having great fun. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please hit like. I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.